Welcome back. Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an honor to share with you information, news, analysis about what's going on in Mexico for almost, 20 years now. Is that right? Anyway, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know if you recall, about 2 weeks ago, we were talking about what appeared to be a decision by the Mexican government, which basically meant that Mexican students would not participate in the international evaluation PISA test. And then a couple days later, the president came out and said during his morning press conference that no, that's not true. They are going to do the PISA test. And then even this week, there was a couple of stories that came out in terms of the future of education. It was Teachers Day this week, and the high level public officials at the Ministry of Education said PISA or these type of international tests are useless. Anyway, so at this point, we really don't know what's going to happen, because we will hopefully know within the next 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, who the next president of Mexico is. And she will have to make very, very difficult decisions, especially considering the information that is provided by a report that was published this week, in which our friend Marco Fernandez participate. Marco is joining us today. Marco is a expert on education policies, not only in Mexico, but he's an international expert. He teaches at Tec de Monterrey. He also is a researcher at Mexico Evalúa. And Marco, you were part of this research, and it's scandalous. I mean, that the information that you all found out and published, and it just explains a lot of things why education in Mexico so bad. Welcome to the show. Just give us bullet form. What does this report say?
Hi, Ana Maria. Yes, it's a report. It's a joint effort between the Education Initiative from the School of Government at Tec de Monterrey and Mexico Evalúa, where basically we did both an assessment of the main challenges of education in Mexico and put over the table policy proposals based on evidence to cope with these challenges. On the one hand, unfortunately, we see that there is an inequality of educational opportunities and an extended problem of the learning that unfortunately the majority of the students in Mexico are not achieving. And in order to overcome this problem, we need to take seriously two things. And precisely evaluations of education, the assessments, tests that we have discussed over the years are key to basically provide information to teachers, to the school leaders, to the states, so they can implement policies that are targeted to the main challenges of the learning, to, for example, develop training courses targeted to special needs that teachers require, or tutorships that are targeted to those students that are that most needed. On the other hand, I mean, one of the challenges that unfortunately we have incomplete education pathways from most of the students in Mexico. For each 100 students that enter in the elementary school, only 28 are going to finish their undergrad studies. And this is unacceptable because the different opportunities are contingent on the zip code where one lives. And that is not acceptable in a society that aspires for equality, for a better development. But in order to achieve this, we have to tackle, and that is the second report, the challenges of the educational infrastructure. In the last 12 years, we have spent over 450,000 million pesos. And it sounds a big amount, but for more than 2,200, 20,000 schools, public schools that exist in Mexico, we see that 40% of them have, or they do not have either electricity, sewage, or they have complete bathrooms. These services that would be essential in any school, these 40% of the schools do not have it. And the situation is even worse in the case of technology and internet computers. Only, I mean, over 65% of the public schools lack this kind of services. So, and it's incredible in that in the 21st century, we do not have a system that could systematize the information on the state of the each of school, public school in Mexico, so authorities could allocate the resources where it's most needed. The
Well,
third,
it sounds like they don't want to. You know what I mean? It's very easy to do these surveys. It takes work. You may have to spend a little money, but some money. But at one point, these schools and these teachers have to be recognized or allocated as part of the system. So anyway, I'm sorry to continue, but it's so
no, you're
frustrating.
right. I mean, and even worse, because the team what found is that for each 100 pesos that are spent on education infrastructure, 42 nobody knows what was spent on. I mean,
Oh
it's
God.
incredible that both the state and the federal governments do not report what they did with that money. The third report basically what does is to identify the gap between what the students are learning at the school level and what the labor market requires. And this is key because unfortunately the education system has not been able to develop the required the needs and the skills for providing the tools to students to transform their own lives and to equip them with the capacity to jump into successfully into the job market. The fourth topic analyzes the situation of an excessive centralism, the lack of a real educational federalism, challenges that, for example, migration is putting over some states that are receiving migration both from abroad and internally, but are not receiving federal extra federal funds, and in the middle of all this situation, one key aspect that we have analyzed is public opinion of education. And here the data it's really not very very helpful because on the one hand we see that parents who have their kids in public primaries and secondary schools, 52% of them acknowledge that their kids had negative impact in their learning during COVID. Then we asked to them, okay, did the schools do something to overcome this
They didn't.
impact?
No,
45% said no.
no.
So given this situation, and then we did also a survey among young people that attend this technical high school called CONALEP, and only 30% of them say that they are learning what they will require for the job market. So with these critical views of education, you would expect that people will be very unsatisfied with the quality of education that they're receiving, but not.
They're not.
70% are satisfied with the education provided by the authorities. And this is key because without really a social pressure, it's going to be very hard to push governments, both at the state and the federal level, to improve that kind of services in education that they are providing to most Mexican students.
You know, we're running out of time, and I'm hoping that you'll come back immediately after the elections because clearly, I mean, it sounds like this report is basically lays out what are the major structural problems in the Mexico's education system. Although that, according to what you just told us, that there isn't a dissatisfaction with Mexico's education by the parents. So then the question mark is, what do we do now? Where can, if you're interested, anybody interested in our audience to get this report, where could they download it?
The report is available in the website aprenderparejo.mx, and basically it's a proposal precisely and a call to action. It is not only that we are providing information and policy proposals for the next federal and state governments, but also calling other members of the society, of government officials, of teachers, of parents, that we need really to mobilize in favor of a better quality and equality of education in our country.
Marco Fernandez from Mexico Evalúa. He also teaches at the Tec de Monterrey. I always appreciate talking to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Ana Maria.
We're going to go to commercial break. I'm Ana Maria Salazar, and I'll be right back. Don't